Hey guys, how's it going? Today I would like to expand a little bit more on my discussion with plants. But first, here is my little girl. For those of you who've been following her story on social media, she was attacked by a dog, I think like 4 weeks ago, somewhere around there. Broke her jaw right here and broke it back here. Now, being how sweet of a cat she is, I decided I would do whatever I could to take care of her. Took her to the vet school here at Texas A&M University, fixed her up. They have a wire on her right here and a wire in the back. She's been healing quite nicely so far. She doesn't really need the feeding tube anymore. She really only needed it for like the first week till the swelling went down. Then she was lapping up some soft foods. And, but since I have to pay for them to take it out, pay for them to clean up her teeth, pay for the sedation, for x-rays and so forth, I'm waiting until like the 6 week mark because that's about when I want to take her in for x-rays. And at that point I'll let them knock her out and take everything out, clean everything up all at once. So unfortunately she's not the happiest because she's still got that tube in her, but she's only got like a week and a half left of it and she's gonna be herself again. But anyways, that's just an update for whoever's been curious about her. She's so precious. If you fall asleep on the couch, she will be sleeping on top of you. She adores everyone. Okay, anyways, back to the subject at hand. I've been wanting to start a series on plants for a while now. I should have another video uploaded very, very soon, actually probably before you ever see this one. And that video is over like biomass, the Amazon rainforest, and so forth. But this video is going to be focused on like the number one cause of death for most houseplants. Now, I understand that several people say they don't have a green thumb. Now, I think that's loaded BS. Like, anyone can grow plants. It's very straightforward. Plants aren't that difficult to please. They only have a few basic requirements. And I will break down each of those in different videos. But this video is focused on watering. So, as many of you have probably discovered, it is possible to overwater your plants. A lot of people have done like, oh, it just looks a little dry, I'm just gonna give it a little bit more. Or it's like, oh, I'm gonna water it every day. Stop. Like, please, please, please stop. That is not how this works. That's not how it's ever gonna work. It's not good for your plants. Okay, so first things first, how often should you water? You should water when it's dry. That's pretty much it. There's a few plants that are exceptions to that, but almost everything fits that category. You water when it's dry. If you're using a soilless medium like typical potting soil, technically not soil because it's not from the ground, so it's soilless media. But if you're using the medium, semantics. Anyways, if you're using it, it's made of predominantly peat moss, and at least typically it's peat moss. And peat moss is very, very light. In fact, when it goes dry, it's so light that when you pick it up, you can tell that the pot doesn't weigh that much. That is one way that a lot of growers will check and see if there is time for them to water their plants. If you're in a greenhouse, watering every plant is not only dumb because you can get diseases going around, but it also can be a waste of fertilizer. So they can go around and they'll start lifting up pots and going around. It's like, oh, this one's light, so they're going to water that one, and they're going to skip and keep going. That's one way that you could do it. You could always check, and if the pot is light, great. If your pot has a lot of actual soil or sand in it, you can't really do that method because it's going to be heavy regardless, or if it's a big pot, heavy regardless. So what can you do at that point? If possible, you can put your fingers on top and touch the soil. I mean, if it's wet, don't water it. If it has signs of root rot, or it has in the past, don't touch it and then another pot without soaping your hands first, because you just spread the disease and the next pot will die as well, even if the other pot's being watered perfectly. Oh gosh, okay. Yeah, so what causes this? What causes root rot? Root rot is a disease, but it's not the pathogenic agent that causes it. And overwatering doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get root rot. You can overwater something under sterile conditions and it never gets root rot. So where does that even come from? Well, root rot is typically caused by something in the, I think it's class Uomycota. I'm not the best with taxonomy, but under the class Uomycota are the oomycetes. And two notorious oomycetes are Pythium and Phytophthora, which are called the water molds. And they're called that because, I mean, they love water and they're very similar to fungi, even though they're not actually in the kingdom fungi. They're with Chromista. So what does this mean? That means that fungicides can work on them, but don't always work on them because they're technically not fungi, but they're similar enough to them. But they do love water, which is the big takeaway. Well, come here, kitty. Oh, she's not happy. Okay, well, if you are overwatering your plants, the spores love that water and they will take over. Now, being that they're in high concentrations, it's very easy for them to infect your plant. In addition, plants need oxygen, just like animals need oxygen. So if you're depriving the roots of oxygen, they will start to get damaged. And that leaves good openings and wounds for Pythium Phytophthora to take over. You can try to reduce this using things like mycorrhizae, which is a beneficial fungi that lives typically in soil, that binds onto the roots of plants and kind of makes an extension outwards from it. And that's very helpful. That's one of the main reasons why you don't really see... I'm sorry, she's being herself. That's the reason why you don't really see outdoor plants that are in the actual soil dealing with root rot nearly as badly, because typically they're protected by other microorganisms that are competing with Pythium and Phytophthora. So if you are growing in a greenhouse or in your house, it is much more vital that you take caution with how you water your plants. There is no competition present, or very little of it, to protect them, unless you inoculate things with mycorrhizae. And some soils do have it. It's just really expensive if you're trying to buy specific mycorrhizae soils. If you are a grower, you might want to consider spraying something like the brand we use was Banrot, but you might want to use some kind of fungicide or something that kills the oomycetes, and you spray it every 4 to 6 weeks. And that's typically, just follow the instructions on there, because anything can be different. But that's typically how we would do it, and that keeps your concentrations from ever getting that high. Keep in mind, if you touch one pot and then touch the next, you can transfer their spores from one to the next, and then you have an epidemic on your hands. All your plants are dead. So you need to take proper hygiene when you're watering as well. Don't touch a bunch of pots if you know there might be an infection. Oh, geez, she's precious. So anyways, what's the big takeaway from this? If you are growing just casually in your house, make sure your plants don't get overwatered. Don't do what my friends did. I went to go look at her aloe plant. I touched it and the whole thing fell apart as soon as I touched it. And you can see fungus gnats flying around, and it was atrocious. The water was, the soil was so soggy, your table was getting wet. Yeah, don't do that. Please don't do that. Let the soil dry out, then water it again. Cacti is an obvious case. Don't just let it fully dry out. Now notice every plant's a little different. So some plants might need a little bit more water. So if you see it start to wilt, water it. By all means, go ahead and water it. Now, if it is wilting because it's overwatered, sorry, it's probably the end of that plant's life. But if it's wilting because of drought, that's easy to fix. So yeah, let it dry out before watering. You can tell that by lifting up a pot, feeling how heavy it is. Water is very heavy. Or you could just feel the soil. But keep in mind, you don't want to transfer things from pot to pot. That's not very hygienic, and that's a good way of killing everything. When you do water, you want to water very thoroughly. Unless you know some exceptions to that, which I will teach you later. But if you water a pot thoroughly, you flush out old salts that were in there, and you basically let it start from scratch. Keep that in mind, that when you do that, you also flush out nutrients. So overwatering also can deprive your plants of nutrition, but also proper watering can as well. So we'll talk about how to get around that problem later, because there are ways you can cheat the system and get a little bit more bang for your buck. And if you have outdoor plants, enjoy, let them do their own thing, water them, let them soak them, do whatever you need to. They're less likely to get infected. And if you are a greenhouse grower or you're just starting out, you might want to invest in a fungicide and apply it every 4 to 6 weeks, because it's really hard to control pests inside your greenhouse. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're out there doing everything like you're supposed to, typically you don't have that problem. And as soon as you see infection, you toss it, typically the problem won't be that bad. But if you miss it, that's where it gets bad. So sometimes it's highly recommended you keep some Banrot or some other fungicide on hand that kills zoomycetes, and you apply it every few weeks as the directions say. Keep in mind that just like we have bacterial resistance, say antibiotic resistance, because people don't take antibiotics properly, you can get the same thing with your pests in your greenhouse. Make sure you follow the labels properly if you are going to use them. Okay, if you got any questions on that, please post them down below. If you like this video, please give it a like, because it helps out the YouTube algorithm. So does comments, by the way. But I'd be very happy to show you and teach you how to handle plants. Yes, I know that I just spent 10 minutes saying let your pots dry out before watering them and don't spread diseases, but you know, sometimes you just like to rant. And here's the kitty, say goodbye. Oh, she's not happy. You'll have a wonderful day.